Boom, squeeze the neck, and we're back. My new mate, Benn Fillingham.
How are we?
Miles Martial Arts. I fucking side-eyed him then, didn't I, with the handshake?
Nearly.
Give me another handshake.
There we go,
Boom!
better.
So, where are we today, mate? I said we're Miles Martial Arts, but what part of the world are we? Because you've dragged me out to the sticks.
I have. We're based down in Kent, like Sevenoaks kind of way, Hildenborough. But yeah, this has been where I've been since like the age of 6, 7. Been down there the whole
Very
life.
good. And you're what age now?
25 now.
There you go. Fresh off a fight at the weekend, which we'll get into.
Got the evidence.
Yeah, I was going to say, first thing I noticed when I showed up, I didn't do it. But yeah, as I say, grateful to be down here, mate, and tell us who you are.
So yeah, my name's Ben, 25. I've been in Taekwondo since about the age of 6, 7. Last couple of years, transferred into kickboxing and been training down at GB Top Team with Wesley.
Shout out GB Top Team. Shout out Magic Wesley.
Let's go.
Magic Maya, sorry, Magic Wesley. Wesley, Magic Maya, you know, you fucking.
What a boy. Yeah, and then since then, just kind of been exploring. Like I said, mentioned, I've been doing a little bit of grappling, trying to move in towards the MMA scene as well. And yeah, just fresh off a fight at Total Combat at the Indigo on the weekend. So
very good. And you said you started doing a bit of grappling. How much grappling are you doing, mate?
Well, I've done a couple of one-to-ones in grappling with Wesley, and then so far I haven't jumped into any of the classes, but I'm planning to do one of the classes.
Very good. And what's your sort of plans with the MMA? You want to fight sort of relatively soon, is it?
Yeah, I'd like to. I did see they put an advert out about an interclub the other day.
Did. August 17th, GB Top Team. Get on it.
That's it. I don't know if it's too soon just yet. I'll speak to Wesley.
It's never too soon. The time is now.
Exactly.
Jump in.
So maybe I'll jump in and do that one. Yeah. But yeah, that would be the plan. The interclubs, do it all properly, you know.
Very
interclubs,
good.
Then trying to move up from there.
Have you done Muay Thai fights and things like that as well?
No, nothing like that. I've only done full contact kickboxing, and then the kind of most recent thing that was like the most serious without any head guards or anything was this thing at Total Combat.
That's cool. And it was not last minute, but late notice, wasn't it?
Late notice, they called me Wednesday and were like, do you want to fight? I was like,
Called you on Wednesday to fight on Saturday?
That's it.
Yeah, that's good. That always works out well, doesn't it?
That's
But I think, have you got an interest in jumping into sort of jiu-jitsu tournaments and things like that? It's just the complete side.
Yeah, as I go, I think that obviously the best way to get coverage in both, because you could have an MMA fight and it's just stand-up, right? And then you've not, anything you've learned, you've not covered.
Yep.
So I think the best way to cover both is to have maybe like a kickboxing comp and then go and do some, so then you're covering both grounds.
Nice.
So, you know, if you jump in MMA, you've got that side covered because there's difference in it rolling around with your mate in training and then someone being on top of you and you're panicking, you're like, oh, there's a big difference, right?
Don't know, mate. I ain't got no mates.
No,
do you know what I mean? No, but like take us back. Like we jump around on this all the time, but like take us back to you've been Taekwondo since you were 6. So I'm assuming you're obviously a black belt at this point.
Black belt.
Like what level of Taekwondo are you?
So again, Taekwondo is very political.
Okay.
You know, there's loads of different things around it. You could go one weekend, they tell you you're the British champion. You go to a comp next weekend, they tell you you're British champion. So there's a little bit give or take in that. It just depends what you like, who you value in terms of grandmasters and that kind of stuff. So yeah, lots of kind of traveling up and down the country when I was younger, doing loads of different Taekwondo comps. And until everyone grew and I didn't, I was alright.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Was you always small or not?
I've always been relatively small. But obviously when you hit like 13, 14,
yeah,
everyone else starts growing again. And
right,
I didn't.
right.
And I was like, where are you not going? Come back.
And how much do you weigh now?
So I walk around about 54 kilos.
Yeah, 54 kilos. Yeah. So for the Americans, what would that be? That'd be about 120 pounds, something like that, 115, something like that. Yeah, so, but like, going from 13, was you sort of normal sized, not normal sized like I'm half mugging you off there, right? No. But was you sort of the average kind of size before that?
Yeah, so like growing up through primary school, obviously I've never one of the tallest, but you wouldn't look at me in my primary school class, like, oh, he's tiny. Yeah. And then suddenly everyone else carried on and it just didn't happen.
And you fight at the weekend, again, as I say, we jump around, but the fight you fought someone who was, what, 7 kilos heavier than you said as well?
Yeah, so I jumped on the scales at 52.8. And he jumped on the scales at 60.8. This is about 8 kilos.
Massive difference, isn't it? You know, anyway, but especially when like the smaller for percentage of your body, that's a big deal. But sorry, I cut you off, mate. Tell us about your Taekwondo.
Yeah, so just up and down the country, you know, people call them national championships, whether you regard them as it's a bit different. So yeah, a couple of different titles here and there throughout Taekwondo, and then just kind of got a bit bored of it. As I said, it's very one-dimensional, the Taekwondo. Is very kicky, and there's not too much more to it. And I just kind of lost interest in competing at that point, especially when everyone's tall and slim. That's normally the way. So even if they weigh the same, they're massive and their legs are just double the length. Makes it really difficult because you then also can't take them down. You can't really get in and work the body with your punches. You can't do anything that would help you being the shorter fighter. You just kind of have to stay on the end of their leg and try and work around that, and that's it. So I was a bit like, this isn't fun anymore. Like I can't I know what I should be doing, but I'm not allowed to do it because it doesn't fit in the rule set. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, where can we go? And luckily, at the same time, the club kind of transitioned into kickboxing, and that just kind of stopped.
Oh, the club did. So we used to train Taekwondo, sort of like move with the times, if you like.
Yeah, and then we still do Taekwondo, and then we had another instructor here at the time, and we moved into kickboxing, and then I started training in that, went down that route, and now I kind of run the kickboxing here at the club.
That's cool, isn't it? That's cool. Because with Taekwondo, Taekwondo's an Olympic sport, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, was that ever on your horizon? Was that ever something you wanted to do?
Again, there's two different federations. You've got ITF, which is international, and then WTF, which is World Taekwondo Federation.
Right.
WTF is the Olympic style, ITF isn't. So you can do like a tournament thing. So at one point I was like, maybe I should go and have a look at doing that. And a couple of the coaches have been like, you should have a look at and doing it. But again, I just never got round to it with school and things like that. Everything just got in the way. I never got round to it. And then again, watching, I don't know if you've ever watched Olympic Taekwondo.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
It looks fantastic from the kicking perspective. But for somebody who's been training with a couple of punches, you watch that and I'm like, I don't like it.
Really?
They don't punch.
Right. Is that the difference between the two styles?
That's normally the biggest one. They're very, the reason it's in the Olympics because it's meant to be flashier.
Right.
R1, because it's all predominantly kicks. So they get away with throwing all these big spinny kicks because they're not worried about someone just clocking them in the face once they land, because it's going to be a kick. That's the big difference. It's meant to be more entertaining as such.
Well, it's interesting. Like, my experience with Taekwondo is little in terms of Taekwondo. I've sparred with some guys that come from a Taekwondo and they do some stuff that you obviously a bit like, whoa.
Yeah,
but I've also, when I've played around with some guys that are Taekwondo guys, it's like real cool. But I'm talking years ago, maybe more than 10 years ago, I went to a Taekwondo class somewhere in London. And it was just like, what is going on here? It was like one of them ones, you know, where you're looking around, you're going, I've never done Taekwondo before. I think I could beat everyone in here at Taekwondo. Yeah. Like, what the fuck is going on?
That's the big thing. And it's such a shame for the sport in general, is there's such a mix of... Because again, once you get to a certain level, you can kind of just do whatever you want.
Right,
So the amount of times you see someone get to... I think you have to be like a 6th degree off the top of my head. You then become like a master as such. That's what your title is. You can go and basically create your own federation.
Okay.
And do whatever you want.
And then you can just like cult-like it out.
Basically, so then people make big, just kind of like, what are they called? Like pyramid schemes. So it's like they'll be but you can buy a franchise in this. But once you've bought your franchise, you just buy the name. Students come in, they don't care what you teach.
Nah.
So it's such a shame because you're right. You two turn up to some Taekwondo clubs and you go,
yeah, it was like this ain't Taekwondo.
How long have you been doing this? You're a black belt. I've been doing it for like 5, or they'll be like, I've been doing it for like 3 years. And I'm like, you're a black belt in 3 years. And they're like, yeah. You're like, can you do this? And they're like, no, I don't know what that is. You're like,
you can't be a black belt, right?
Yeah,
you can't be a black
it's
belt.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Which is mental because, like, obviously, like in Jiu Jitsu, like there's people that have been doing Jiu Jitsu 15 years that ain't black belts yet, just because they're not good enough. And that's to me, that's how it should be, right? You know what I mean? It shouldn't be a time-governed thing. Like certain people dip in and out. A lot of people in Jiu Jitsu, especially, I don't know what your familiarity with Jiu Jitsu, but they're sort of like get to blue belt level and just life gets in the way. It's not criticism on them, but they got kids, they got a job, they got this and that. And they're a blue belt for 10 years. And that's just because that's the level they've stayed at.
If you can't commit to a training in some sort of martial art, then fine. Yeah. Okay, cool. It's a shame, it happens. But once you can commit to it, then all right, cool, we can start progressing again.
That's interesting.
But you're learning a martial art that is meant to be practical and useful, right? The whole idea
You'd hope so, right?
At some point, if somebody were to attack you, you're in a position where you can defend yourself.
Yeah.
If you just get handed a black belt, it just diminishes the value of everything else. It's like, well, what's the point?
Well, in some martial arts as well, you see kids that are black belts that are like supposed to be actual black belts, which I found very strange, right?
Yeah,
because if you're 14, even if you've got great skills, but you're a black belt, you're not going to do great against a grown man, are you?
Yeah, it does make a big difference. A lot of the Taekwondo clubs do things which I think is cool, is they'll either have an age limit or they'll do like a junior black belt syllabus.
Right,
so you can still become a black belt because you might have been training for 8 years and you've worked really hard at it, and like you said, you've got a great skill set.
Yeah.
Cool, you deserve that recognition.
Yeah.
But until they then turn, I think a couple of kickboxing gyms do it as well, until you turn 18, you'll have like a black belt with a white stripe.
That's cool, that's cool.
And then once you turn 18, you can do your black belt grading to get a full black belt, which
that should be, yeah.
right?
Because in Jiu Jitsu, again, to relate it to that, sometimes it goes the other way. You've got kids that have been training for 10, 12 years, but they're too young. So when they become an adult, they're still only a blue belt, and they go to competitions, and it's like, well, I mean, you are a blue belt, but you've been training 12 years. The average guy who's been training 18 months and's a blue belt, he ain't going to do well against you in a tournament. Do you know what I mean? So it goes around, doesn't it? It's all swings and roundabouts. But how did you start sort of having your eye towards MMA? Where did that come from?
I think just as I got a little bit older, when I started, I'll relate back to that, I never really was like, this is going to go somewhere. I just enjoyed doing Taekwondo.
Right. You can't really be a professional Taekwondo guy anyway, can you?
Unless you've got your goal set on going to the Olympics.
Sorry, yeah, of course, right.
But that's very niche.
But even if you go to the Olympics, I'm assuming you still got to have a job, haven't you?
Most of them do,
yeah,
don't they?
or at least teach Taekwondo.
Unless you get a massive sponsor like Adidas or something like that.
Yeah.
Most of them do. But very, very niche, right? So unless that was your goal, I was just like, I just enjoy it.
Right.
It's good fun. I never really thought I'd teach anyway. I was just like, no, I enjoy it. It's
yeah.
cool. As I got a little bit older, things changed. I started just to enjoy combat sports, like watching it, doing this. During lockdown, I was like, I want to do something with my time. Working from home at the time, I was like, I want to do something. So I was like 18, 19. I was like, right, what do I do?
So was you like 18, 19 in lockdown?
When was lockdown? 2020?
I
was 20.
Shit, that makes me feel old though. You was 20 in lockdown. Fuck's sake, bro.
It seems like it was yesterday. Though,
yeah, it does. Right. 5 years ago, someone said to me the other day, we was in lockdown 5 years ago, which is mental.
Crazy.
But anyway.
Crazy. But yeah, so in 2020, it was just like, I need something to do. Like, I work from home, don't want to sit here all day. So I had a friend of mine called Jordan Muir. Again, I don't know if you passed GB, but yeah, he was doing one-to-ones. He just started MMA, and I was like, cool. I'll drop a message. Cool. Started doing some stuff with him, just training. I was like, I really like this actually. This is different.
Yeah.
I went back to the beginning again, right? Cool. I've got these fancy, flashy kicks, but they don't work when someone grabs your legs and puts you on the floor. You're like, oh, what do I do now?
Yeah, right.
So it was humbling, but it was like reinvigorated that kind of like want to learn, which I've had from Taekwondo. I was like, oh, I like this. I have to start again. I need to focus. I've got to learn something new. And then as that kind of transitioned, he put me in contact with Wesley at GB Top Team, and it just kind of went from there. And I was like, actually, this really suits my kind of, I'm always probably going to be the shorter fighter. I know that. But having that kind of mass array of skill sets is like, well, it doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, right, they got reach on me, but if I'm explosive and I can get underneath, I can grab them, I can take them down, I can work. That nullifies that range disadvantage.
Yeah. Right.
And as I've gone, this really suits how I like to fight. And it's just gone from there really. And
that's
as I'm
cool.
getting closer, I'm like, all right, we can make this work now.
That's cool. And you thinking about a fight this year, are you? Is it that close?
Like I said, if that.
Oh, sorry, you said the Interclub.
If that Interclub, and like I said, I'll put it through Wesley. See what he says. Yeah. He's my coach.
Come on, Wes.
Yeah,
get the boy on the card, eh? Let's go, Wes. But with the like all these flippy twippy kicks, I'll call them for lack of a better term, right? I'm not going to try and butcher the names, but the kicks that you're flying around and whatnot, they'll serve you when your other skills sort of catch up, right? When you've like earned the right, if you like. Do you know what I mean? When you can stop someone taking you down.
Right time, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you can stop people taking you down and then ping a fucking spinning wheel kick round their head.
That's it.
Hey.
And that's the thing. It can just, even if it doesn't land, it just, okay, I've got to be careful of that.
Oh, mate, the threat of it is a big thing.
Suddenly stops them a little bit, puts them in, and you're like, okay, cool. So yeah, using them at the right time will be a massive advantage when like you said, when I get everything into one place and it's like, right, I can use this, but then I can go back to basics and I can use this. Yeah. That's what's going to be exciting.
Well, another guy from GB Top Team, I don't know if you know him, Alfie Davis, who's on PFL, right? He's in the final of the PFL tournament. Yeah. Shout out Alfie, just won at the weekend. It won't be the weekend when this comes out, but like, he's out there throwing, his last fight before this one, he threw a spinning elbow as well, but it wasn't like a spinning elbow traditionally. It was almost like by his waist. He just timed it right and whatever he did. I'm not going to tell you what Alfie did. Alfie, you helped me, bro. But he did it again in this fight and landed it. It didn't catch him as sweet, but it still wobbled him and put him over, and he's like, the threat of that is a fucking nightmare, isn't it?
I was watching Alfie hit. He was doing a round just before they were sparring on like the Tuesday morning before I was training with Wes. So I always get there a little bit early. I just like sitting there and watching. These are, you've got people, Lonnie, Naif, even watching Jawani spar. He's similar height and weight to me. I'm like, okay, I love it. Like watching them guys, they're at the top level of what they do. And I was watching Alfie because I had a conversation with him before, like the week before, because I wore one of my t-shirts that had the Wacko Kickboxing logo on it. He was like, oh, you fight? And I was like, yeah. He was like, oh, that's where my background is. I was like, okay, cool. Next week I watched him spar and he's just pinging these spinning back kicks. And I'm like, but the timing perfect every time. I'm like, wow. And he's mixing it in with his punching, bum, 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 back kick, and I'm like, wicked. Like that's the level where I can see the progression of me getting.
Well, I think with that kind of stuff, where it's so natural to you and you're such a high level of throwing them kicks, it's easy to go from 1-2 to, oh, bang, I'll just throw it, right?
Yeah.
Whereas someone who comes from the other end, who might be like a top level boxer or a good boxer,
it's not
for them to, they can learn a spinning back kick all day. They're used to being sort of like throwing the punches. And now throw a spinning back kick.
Yeah, you got to sort your feet out first. Yeah.
So I think it'll take, with the weight though, with you, like obviously you're under the minimum weight, right? In terms of most MMA organisations. Lon's a good example. Like I don't know him personally, but I've been around him. He's always been nice to me when I see him, Lonnie. But he's a lot bigger than you, right? And he's fighting at the lightest weight. Like, how does that play into it? Are you on a constant bulk?
Yeah, so the plan is obviously at some point. It doesn't have to be for the first one. I'm not overly fussed. You know, if I'm at an inter club, I'm not going to be going, oh, right, I want to be at 65, cut into 57. As long as I'm in and around 57, I take the fight. You know?
Kick him in the face anyway.
Right, that's the plan. But yeah, going forwards, if it started getting towards, you know, amateurs, even in towards kind of professional level, then I would have to, the plan is to get up towards 63-ish.
Is it?
Just put on a bit of size.
Yeah.
Again, obviously, I'm walking around the gym. Lonnie and Giovanni are slightly bigger than me, like height-wise, but the main Lonnie's frame's just
he's thick, and he's hefty.
So just be putting on a bit of size, and then you know, cutting down to 57 properly, and then hopefully being more like 62 on fight night.
Yeah,
right? That would be the aim. But yeah, that'd have to be done.
Yeah,
moving forwards.
Because interesting you say about Lonnie. Also, Wesley, you obviously train with him. How he makes that weight? When I was first, he's jacked, man.
Yeah.
He's thick.
But I speak to him now, and I'm walking around like, how much you weigh in these days? And he's like, I like 80. I'm like, bro, what are you fighting at again? He's like 61. I'm like, what?
80, that's what I weigh.
It's crazy. It's not quite that bad, but it's like 74.
Yeah.
Down to 63.5 or whatever it is. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And then fight week starts. I'm like, how much you weigh now? He's like, 71. I'm like, how the hell?
94.
How the hell are you getting to 63.5 in 4 days? He's like, I'll be there.
I'll do it, yeah. But I'll tell you one thing they say, don't they? Like when you're super lean, because he's very lean as well.
Lean.
It's like water weight, and he cuts it. So he probably weighs, I don't know what he weighs, you know, fight night, but like, he don't weigh 135. Yeah, he ain't 61, But he's a thick kid, isn't he? You know what I mean? Wesley.
That frame, right?
Yeah. And so when you're training with him, you're doing like privates. Are these grappling privates?
Started off as just pure striking.
Pure striking, that's interesting, okay.
I was brand new to it.
Right.
Into massive kickboxing tournaments, just being like, I've never had a fight before. Like,
and with kickboxing, is leg kicks involved or not?
If you go into K1, we're the Wacko scene is very like American style.
Above the waist.
So they've got points, which is, I don't know how much of it you've seen. It's like the whole where they bounce and then they'll score a point, and then whoever gets the point, they go back to the middle and it's 1-0. So it goes from that all the way into like K1, and you can just choose which discipline you want to start in. So obviously I started on the tatamis, on the mats, doing light continuous, which is just like full contact, but you're not trying to hit hard, you're trying to score points. Then I moved into full contact, and that's when I was kind of like, I can't just jump into the ring without knowing what I'm doing. I'd never even step foot in a boxing ring, let alone...
Really? That's interesting.
It's always been like contact from kickboxing up to Taekwondo. It's always been that kind of point style. I was like, right, I want to go full contact. Let me actually start speaking to somebody who knows what they're talking about, because I'm the only one that does it here.
Right.
So I had to get someone in the corner that knew what they were talking about before I did it.
Right.
So it started just with Wesley being like, right, let's just do some kind of pad work, striking stuff, let me understand what it's like. And then as we progressed, it was like, okay, I enjoy this. What about we start adding in some kind of takedowns, or at least some takedown defense, and work on that? And then it's just kind of progressed from there. So we do a little bit of both sometimes, a little bit of striking, might do one session, a little bit of just pure groundwork, that kind of stuff.
And what was the plans with jumping into like classes and stuff with grappling purely? Are you sort of getting to that point where it's like, come on, bro, let's get in there, let's have a wrestle?
Yeah, that's it. I wanted just enough that if someone was explaining the drill, I'd understand it.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense.
I didn't want to turn up and then be like, right, guys, this is what you're going to do. Go. Not, again, I'm sure they would explain it to me. Everyone I've met there's really, really nice. I'm sure they would take their time. But then I just feel like I'm wasting time on the lesson where we could be on the next one by that point. So I wanted just enough that if I turn up to a class, it'd be like, oh, we're going to do this. Oh, I know what that position is. I can go.
Yeah, and I'm assuming with Wesley you're doing no gi stuff, right? He's not sticking in a gi.
No, we haven't put the gi on yet.
Put this on.
Yeah. I'm like, all no gi stuff. But
Well, I was in a gi last night. I was at a judo seminar. So shout out. I'm going to butcher your name. Lily Nairin, judo Olympian. Shout out MA London.
Very
Freddie,
nice.
thanks for having me down. All that stuff. Judo. And I am ranked in the gi as not judo, as jiu-jitsu. But I don't wear the gi much, right? I'm sort of a no gi guy. So like the stick I'm getting just from posting online, and that's me, who is a jiu-jitsu guy. Like so, if like you're sticking it on, I'm imagining.
If I put a gi on, they'd be like, what's this bloke doing?
Yeah, what's he up to him? Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like waving at the crowd, pointing at people, you know what I mean? Doing all that stuff. But I do like the gi guys. The stick I get, hey, don't shoot the messenger. But it was great seminar last night. So shout out to Lulu, Lulu. I butchered your name. I butcher everyone's name. Don't take it personal. But GB Olympian, so she knows the score. Cool, she threw me on my face yesterday, so it is what it is. And she's a lot smaller than me. But side note, cut that bit out, guys, cut that out. But like if you go forward like through the inter clubs and things like that, you sort of touched on it. You want to go amateur, you want to do pro fights and all that business.
Love to, yeah, absolutely love to. Again, Saturday was the kind of beginning. I've sat in the Indigo so many times, watching Wes, watching Jawani, watching whoever it is, Nick, Bagley, watching all these guys fight on Cage Warriors, and I'm like, this is wicked. And then being there, obviously it wasn't anything pro, it wasn't anything like that, it was just an opportunity that presented itself, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to have to take it, because for me, walking out of the O2 was just surreal.
What was your walkout song?
Wow, we didn't get to pick.
Ah!
I know, they streamed it on YouTube, so they had all like copyright issues. So
okay.
the DJ just
so what did you end up walking out to?
I can't, I didn't even
I was going to say, they didn't like do you with like Barbie
No,
Girl
it
or
wasn't
something?
nothing like that. It was actually alright. It was a bit like housey, drum and bass.
Yeah, I gotcha.
It did the job, But yeah, just taking it all in, walking out onto the stage, looking up and seeing like 1,000 people just sat there, I was like, oh, this is cool. And that's just furthered it, that just makes me want to go, okay, I've got to work so I can get to that point where it's like 3 times a year.
Yep. And more initially, man, right? You could. There's no reason you can't do 6 a year in the amateurs and like get rolling. We spoke about our mate Erasmus. Shout out Erasmus. Check out his podcast. That's a great guy. But he's fought like since the podcast. I don't know how long ago the podcast was, but I think he's fought 3 times since. It's like bang bang bang.
I was gonna say obviously he jumped in and fought on Saturday, and then like the day after, I saw a fight poster.
Yeah.
I was like,
non-stop.
This bloke's just fought. What's going on? So yeah.
Well, I was at a Fight Zoomy. Shout out Fight Zoomy. They had me down. Miko invited me. Thanks very much, mate. And I had Francisco on the podcast, who was one half of the main event. Right. He fought that Saturday and the next Saturday at the O2. So same place as you did. Do you know what I mean? The week before, I believe it would have been. But just non-stop. And like when I was sitting to him on the podcast, he wasn't very experienced in terms of he wasn't a boxer as a youth or anything like that. But like you're talking to him, and he's got the bug, he's keyed in, and he's like, I'm doing this, I'm training all the time, I'm boom, 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 boom. And he's the opposite end of you in terms of he's a big heavyweight, but he's still doing the same thing. Yeah. He wants to bulk up because he knows himself. Check out the podcast, I won't speak for him, but you know what I'm saying? He's like putting in the work, man, and he's like, you speak to him and he's keyed in and he means it, which is good to see. But like, tell us about your fight, mate, because you said it was sort of karate combat style. Yeah,
so called Total Combat. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on YouTube. Really, it was their first event, but it was buzzing. The atmosphere was wicked. So yeah, check it out if you haven't. Some serious fighters on there. So yeah, definitely have a look.
And what's the rule set? Is it like karate combat same?
Rule set's very similar. There was nothing. It was all above the waist still, so no leg kicks or anything like that. No elbows on knees. But 7-ounce gloves, no head guard, and then no feet guards. And then if you got them down to the floor, so you could do forms of takedowns. If you got them on the floor, you could then hit them 3 times before the ref would stand you up.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, I took mine last Wednesday. They called me, so again ran it past Wes. Was like, "What do you reckon? Should we take it?" Because of the weight, I fight if I'm cutting weight. Like I went out to Italy a couple of months ago. I fought at 51 because I cut the weight down.
Really? Yeah.
So I fight at 51 if I've got the opportunity to. Oof. They called me like, got this fight. Kid's a Muay Thai fighter. That's all they told me. I didn't realise they had 5 professional fights, but we'll get to that.
Oh.
Yeah. Muay Thai fighter, very static. You beat him if you move. And I was like, all right, that sounds good. 61 kilos. Yeah. And I was like, oh. So I messaged Wes. I was like, what do you reckon? Sent him one of the kids' fights. What do we think? Like, is it worth taking as an opportunity? It's going to be tough. We know that. He's heavier than me. He's bigger than me. He was like a couple inches taller than me. I knew it was going to be tough, but should we take it? It's a good opportunity. What do you think? So yeah, took the fight. Felt good going into it. Felt good in the first round. I was moving around, you know, scoring my shots, moving out. I don't think I could hurt him. I realised after the first round I'd hit him with some good shots, but he was just always in front of me. But again, those Muay Thai kids are pretty tough, right? They just take things and just stand in front of you like, fucking hell, piss off. So yeah, felt good in the first round, but the lack of training camp caught up to me.
Right.
I went back to my corner and I looked at Wes. I was like, mate, I'm knackered. Like, I'm so tired. It's only been 2 minutes, but I'm tired. So I went back out there and I just made one mistake. I froze my feet when I shouldn't have. And you can't stand in front of a bigger guy, you know. And he just hit me with this body shot that put me down. And then obviously I just covered myself up and he hit me. But because I was kind of face down, just covered up, the ref had no choice but to stop it because I'm not really defending myself. So can't argue with that, you know. And then that was the end of it. But yeah, like it was, it's really weird because normally when I lose, I'm like studying, what could I have done better? Where did I go wrong? How did I lose? Why didn't I get the decision? I feel like I've won this fight. Like, I'm so happy about the whole kind of experience. That the loss, I knew it was going to be tough. And like I said, I know the mistake I made. I stood my ground against a bigger guy when I shouldn't have. I should have kept moving. And he hit me with a shot, great shot, put me down, and then jumped on top, finished the fight, right? That's just how it goes sometimes. But yeah, what an experience.
And mate, listen, how many people would do that? Jump in again, 10 kilos above your natural weight with someone who's got 5 pro fights behind them and just say, fuck it, let's try. Like, why not, right?
And that was the mindset, right? And that's it sometimes. It was such a cool opportunity. It's exposed me to so many different things. You know, I've had so many people.
And you're on Squeeze the Neck now, mate. You've made it. You've basically made it at this point.
But that was it. It was, and obviously I didn't realise you didn't realise that I was fighting.
Yeah.
I just saw it popped up being like, so I thought I'd message him, oh, thanks for that, like, amazing.
Yeah.
And then you messaged me and I was like, but it's just opened so many different doors that regardless of the result, I've made such a good showing of myself as a fighter that who knows what's to come next, right?
That's it, and that will help you right down the road. And I think there's a massive something to that. It's like when the opportunities come, if you just keep pinging them out and taking them, it leads on, doesn't it?
And
do you know
like
what I mean?
you were saying about the other guy who's not the most experienced, I'm not. I've had a lot of Taekwondo competitions, but that's not fighting,
right?
Because you don't really get hit. You just get ding, 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 a couple of turning kicks across the side of your face, and they just pin your head guard. You're like, right. There's 9 points he's just scored in 2 seconds. You're like, but they don't hurt.
Right.
Whereas full contact and that kind of stuff, I've only had like 5, 6 fights.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, the more I can take now, where, let's be honest, in 2 years' time, if I'm fighting pro MMA, no one's going to care about what happened on Total Combat.
And neither are you. Do you know what I mean? It's just a training session, really, isn't it?
I've had another fight.
Yeah.
I've put myself through.
But it's like almost like a glorified training session for you, innit, personally, because it's like it's just in the pocket, innit, for experience down the road. Exactly. And it's like you said, no one's going to give a fuck about that down the road.
And that's exactly why, having discussing it with people, I was like, all right, why not? Let's do it.
And listen, I say it a lot on here, but I think there's value in trying anyway. Like, do you know what I mean? Like the people that sit there and don't do it.
Yeah,
and
I'm going to do this.
What was you going to do that night? Like, oh, I won't take that. I'm a bit.
That's it. That was
you know what I mean?
Like, what was I going to do on my Saturday night?
Maybe I won't do that.
And probably watch it.
Yeah, exactly. But if you don't take it, you learn nothing from it, innit? Do you know what I mean? Right. And it's like these things. I think they're all positives 100%. At the end of the day, aren't they? I mean, if you got kicked in the face and knocked dead for a minute, that might not be a positive. Right. But that didn't happen, so who cares? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. And with like the O2 and like all that sort of razzmatazz, if you like, that goes around it. Yeah. What was you like in the change room beforehand? Was that a big thing?
I felt fine. The day of was the worst. Like I woke up in the morning, I was like, maybe I've made the wrong decision here. Like he's bigger than me. He's a lot bigger than me. He's heavier than me. Maybe I've not. Maybe this was a bad idea. As soon as we started walking around, being in the arena, again, I knew a lot of the guys in the change room that I was in, so I was chatting to all of them, you know. They were all like, mate, you're nuts, why would you take this? But in my head, I was like, all right, cool, if this is like, all right, I'll just go out there and show that, yeah, it might have been a crazy decision to make, but I'm game, you know, I'm game for the fight. And as soon as I started warming up, again, I don't think I thought about what was out there. I was just in the change room warming up like I normally do for a local competition, right? It's the same kind of difference. You're just hitting the pads, moving around, sussing out what the game plan is, what you're going to do, that kind of thing. And then the nicest thing for me, I think, was I walked along the front of the oval. I saw Mum and Dad standing. I was like,
oh, yeah, Mum and Dad there as well.
Mum and Dad there. Said hello to Mum and Dad. And then as I jumped into the oval, obviously, like, did my little circle, touched his glove, whatever. And I just stood there for a second and looked up to the balcony, and it was just like, there was a couple of empty seats, but it was basically full. And I just remember standing there going, this is why we took it. Like, and I didn't feel nervous. I felt like I'd made the right choice in that.
Right.
So I'd gone from going, oh, maybe I made the wrong decision, to walking out, being warmed up, ready to go. Like, I made the right choice here.
That's interesting. And you was obviously very aware to be looking around like...
But everyone had said to me, they're like, mate, think about what you've done. Like, you've stepped up last minute. It takes guts. You know you're fighting someone bigger and heavier than you. Just enjoy the occasion. And I think this is why I feel like I do now, because this is exactly what I did. I didn't put too much pressure on myself to be like, you have to win this fight. I knew I was up against the odds. But in my head, I was like, I can win this fight. You know, it's not impossible. I'm not going out there to lose. I'm going out there to fight. I'm going out there to win. But I wasn't so focused on being like, if you lose this, you've kind of let yourself down here.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to be anyway, freeing wise, because like I think you put a lot on things at times. Like when you're saying you walked out and you're looking like, I can't relate to that at all. Like if I've been in change rooms boxing and whatnot, I'm like, don't talk to me, don't come near me. I'm pacing like whatever. My coach said to me once before, he said, "Fuck me, Ollie, sit down. You're doing the carpeting." Do you know what I mean? Like I'm walking up and down like whatever. So for you to be out there and sort of I mean. There's pros and cons, right? But I think the big thing with it is being yourself, isn't there? Like, if you walked out and started snarling and whatever, it's a stress you don't need because it ain't you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And going forward, all these experiences, they're going to serve you massively. And at the end of the day, not that I'm trying to sound like a dinosaur, but 25 years old, man, you've got so much time ahead of you. You know what I mean? And I think at 25, if I look at myself when I was 25, I don't think you realise how young you are. No. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially, again, your environment makes a big difference, right? So when I'm at the gym, obviously most of the guys, I think Lonnie's younger than me.
Is he? Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
He's in UFC already.
I know,
like
that's
that.
what I mean. So sometimes you can look at that and be like, oh shit, like I've not done enough.
Yeah.
But then when I'm here, we have a lot of like kind of assistant black belts that are like 16. I'm like, Jesus, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
So it's like, depending on the environment, can be two different things, right?
Yeah.
So, but most of the pros in the gym are older than me. So I'm like, oh, I've got time.
Yeah.
And then I come here and I'm like, oh, I've got no time. Like, I've got to do it now.
Yeah. But I think there's always the case, right? You've always got to do it now, but at the same time, there's no rush.
That's it.
Do you know what I'm saying? There was a guy, I can't remember his name, so I won't mention, I'll keep it quite vague, so it's not like I'm forgetting it. Yeah. But he was on Instagram recently. He's a Jiu Jitsu black belt, like a 3rd degree, like a lifetime. 47 years old. If anyone can help me out from Haringey, Gracie Baha. But he had a K1 fight. He's 47, first K1 fight ever. He's been in Jiu-Jitsu for I don't know, I'm seeing from what he wrote on his post, right? But he knocked out a 27-year-old, right? So time is what it is, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I think a lot of it comes down to what you do.
Especially in martial arts, right? If you look after your body, you know, we had another one, there's a guy down in Croydon that teaches Taekwondo. We went to watch him have an MMA fight. It's like 50. 50, yeah. But again, after that one, he was like, that was my last one. Like, I'm done now. Yeah. But again, it was like, oh,
yeah, man.
Really? Yeah. He was like, yeah, like, I loved it.
Because I think the old, like, you don't feel no different in here, right? No. They're still there. Yeah. This might fall apart on you. But I think that bit that wants to fight, that's hard, isn't it? That's why we see a lot of pro fighters that go on far past what they should do, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like leave the game before the game leaves you, right?
Which is why I think you've got to be a bit careful. Like, you know, a lot of people, age is just a number. Like, age is just a number, but one day you're going to be 60. Like, you want to get kicked in the head at 60. You know what I mean?
Not really.
Probably not, right? Do you know what I mean? It's different, isn't it?
But it's just the recovery, right?
Yeah.
When you're 25, 30, that your body takes the beating, and then.
But again, I think a lot of this, and a lot of people might disagree with me on this one. I'm nearly 35, right? But when that comes on, I'm 25, so shut the fuck up.
100%.
But like I recover just as good or better than I ever have. I don't feel any different. Do you know what I mean? And I train more, really, if anything. Do you know what I mean? And when I say train more, I train more diverse. I do more grappling, striking, whatever. Versus when I was younger, I was pure boxer. Then I found grappling, and I kind of left boxing for a while, etc., etc. But yeah, I mean. In that sense, age, I feel like I'm coming into my prime. Do you know what I mean?
that normally is about right? Yeah. That kind of 35, 36 kind of age is where you...
Because people say to me, right, that are sort of a little bit older than me maybe, that I know, they'll say like, I just can't recover like I used to. Whereas touch wood, I don't feel that yet. But I'm not there.
Like I said, I think it depends what you do.
Right.
If you've never really kind of pushed your limits and you've never been consistently training, of course you're going to feel at 25, you go on a night out, drink and you felt fine the next day.
Yeah.
And then when you get to 35, it don't quite work the same. But that's not...
I think alcohol's a big one.
That's not the same, right? That's not the same. Whereas if you've been training consistently for that many years, when you get to 50, all right, it's going to take its time a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
But I think if you've consistently trained and your body's used to that, I think, coming into even late 30s, I think you're still...
Yeah, I think so. And you just have more time, right? You have more time. And also, I think with training, you cut the fat off the bone, like the unnecessary stuff.
Right.
And it's not because you're sort of prepping for your age or anything like that, but you just learn what is unnecessary.
Right?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of things I look back on now that I was doing when I was sort of 18 to 22, I say, boxing, and like was really fucking on it. But a lot of it was a waste of time that I could have spent better. And it's not like I trained too much, but like I could have changed it to doing more of this, less of that, etc., without getting specific. There's a lot of things you can tweak and go, well, if I spent more time, I don't know, practicing my fucking jab than doing like whatever. Like, do you know what I'm saying? There's a lot 100%. Of things you get smarter to with age, I think. And it's, again, I hesitate to say age because I think it's more just time in it.
Is time.
Experience,
time, right?
You know?
Again, if I had a conversation with Lon, it'd be like he's older than me.
Yeah, right.
Because he's been there. He's walked out to the main arena at the UFC. He's been through all these
Knocked
things.
someone out in the UFC and then did a backflip.
Right.
The cheek of it.
Yeah.
The cheek of it.
Do you know what I mean? But, but then if he asked me about something that I've been doing for longer than he has, it'd be back the other way around, right?
Right.
So, I think age sometimes is misconstrued as age.
Yeah.
And not time served.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? If you've been doing it for 10 years versus someone who's 10 years older than you that's only been doing it for 2, if he comes and asks you questions about things, it's going to be like you're the one that's older than him in that aspect.
Yeah,
because you've been doing it for longer.
And you can learn things like I was in Muay Thai class, shout out Daniel Terry fight team, doing Muay Thai with them boys. Like some of them boys are like 14, 15 in the class, and like they got like a little tricky kick they do, and you go, how the fuck do you do that? Show me that. Like I want to like, and I'm
100%.
By the way, I'm old enough to be his dad, right? So like, but I can still fucking
100%.
like, do you know what I'm saying?
But I think that's such a beautiful thing about martial arts is that area of like respect.
Yeah.
Like even Wes turned around to me the other day. He was like, talk to me about some of these like spinning back kicks.
Yeah.
And again, we've got very specific ways.
What did you say? No, it's not for you, bro.
Yeah.
It's secret.
But that's the thing. For me, I was stood there like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean? You're the professional fighter.
Yeah.
But it's, like you said, you can walk into a gym as a martial artist and appreciate something for what it is. You might be like, well, I'm a better fighter than you. But like you said, you do that really well. So I'm going to pick your brain about how you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is...
And I think that's where you got to get to a point where it's like, listen, I want to get better. I'm not here to be like the puff my chest out and I'm the best on the mat. You might be the best on the mat that particular day, but that doesn't mean silly bollocks in the corner over there can't show you a little something, and you go, oh, you swept me there. That. You did this. And I think that it's important to keep. You know?
And again, from what transitioning for me, I think that was one of the biggest things I was like fearful of is I've always been here. This is my home. Like, I feel comfortable here. When it was like, right, you really need to up your training. You need somebody who's been there and has kind of understanding of what you're trying to achieve. I was shitting myself. I was like, nah, like I can't just walk into a gym because I'm so used to being like up there and well respected. I'm one of the most senior ones here. I was like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. What if they're just like, who's this kid? Like a little Taekwondo kid. Nah, he doesn't belong here. Yeah. But most, and I would probably say most, that when you get the exceptions, but most gyms aren't like that. You walk in, I've never felt so welcomed as I have done in GB Top Team.
GB Top Team is great, man. Whenever I've been there, they're fucking welcome.
Never felt so welcomed. And again, we went to a Croydon, did a sparring session down with some of the guys there. Felt so welcome. So welcome. But you just have that perception of that everyone in the gym's going to be like, well, I'm the best.
But there are gyms like that, man. I was talking to someone in class this morning. I won't mention the gym they was talking about, not because I don't want it out there, just because I don't want to give them any time, because they're scumbags, the gym they're talking about. And they said, oh, do you know such and such gym to do jiu-jitsu? And I was like, fucking... I've been there for training before, like dropping, and, the guy on the desk grunts at you, and like, doesn't want to talk to you after rounds of sparring. It's like, bro, listen, I ain't got to fucking be here. Do you know what I mean? You, fuck that environment. Like, who's training here? Do you know what I mean? Who wants to train here with you fucking bums? You know what I mean? You're good at what you do, but you're just all arseholes. So like, I'm not coming back, am I? Do you know what I mean?
That's it.
And it's not necessary, is it?
It's not unnecessary, and that is the thing. And like I said, I think people can get that perception. But that's where I think sometimes people do a disservice to any kind of form of martial art. We've got it here, you know. Amount of times we've had new people walk in and they're like, I've never felt so welcome.
Yeah.
Got big shout out to Jamie, if you watch this.
You better be Jamie.
Yeah, he's like 6'6", massive, scary. And when he walked in, I was like, oh Jesus. I'm at the front like coaching, and I'm like, yeah, just listen to me, yeah. But he's the first one. As soon as someone new walks through the door, he's like, oh, you're right, mate. What's your name? First one. And every single person has been like, he's really nice, isn't he? You wouldn't think he is, but he's really nice. And that's the environment that I love creating and love experiencing when I'm walking.
But it's also, like that, it's got to be a two-way street, right? Like the student too, because like I've been at classes too. I've been at things like with teaching grappling, and my background's striking, right? So I kind of see it from both sides a little bit. And like a guy come in who's a kickboxer, and you know, like he's almost like, well, I just did it, and you're like, bro, go and do that somewhere else. Like, you've come to a fucking grappling class. Do you want to learn grappling, or do you want to tell us how you can kick? I'm not interested. No, do you know what I mean? We can spar after if you want, and you can show me if your kick works. Probably won't. Do you know what I'm saying? But like, or maybe it will. But like, you can show me after. But for now, shut the fuck up and do the class. Do you know what I mean? And I've been at classes too where I'm not teaching, I'm just at the class, and there's someone in there, and they're kind of like, but what if, and it's like, bro, just fucking train. You've come to like a grappling class, and you're trying to tell us about your axe kick. I don't care. You know what I mean? But before I go on a rant, before I go on a rant, we'll leave it there.
It's valid, right? It's valid, and you do get those kind of people, which is a shame.
But I just think a lot of it is they're not that good.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They tell their striking buddies I'm a grappler. They tell their grappling buddies they're a striker. And it's just to sort of like, I know something you don't.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, mate. You know, do your thing. Do your thing. You know, whatever, man. Like,
whereas,
you probably get beat up in both. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? But like, tell us about your training, mate. Before we come on to like your current training and like the bulking and whatever. Like, what does a Taekwondo person train like?
So again, obviously with the different disciplines, one of the reasons I love Taekwondo and will always love it is you've got the sparring aspect, which is like the sporty side when you see the Olympics and that kind of stuff. But you also have like the patterns. So they're like forms in karate.
Right, like a kata style stuff.
Yeah, like the sequence of movements. And they're just very like therapeutic. And you know, that's the bit I enjoyed as a kid until I found sparring. I was like, oh, I quite like this. But as a kid, I just loved the patterns and learning the sequence. And even the whole grading syllabus is like, you know, you have to learn X, Y, and Z, and then you have to come and perform it in front of somebody, and they give you a grade.
Right.
And then when you get the next belt, you learn the next set of movements and the next sequence and the next pattern, and then you've got to come perform that. And then when you get to black belt, it's like, right, well, you've got to remember all of them from white belt up, and you've got to sit there in front of one of the grandmasters and do all your patterns, and then they decide if you're ready to be a black belt.
And how long's like, if you was to go through all the patterns, is this like quite an extensive, I'm assuming? This is like
so a black belt grading typically is normally like 3 or 4 hours long. There's loads of different aspects though. Right? You do all the patterns, then you've got all the self-defense. So we have like, there's a couple of sticks and stuff on the windowsill. You learn some stick defense and some knife defense. And then
grenade defense. Where's the grenade defense?
Yeah, you just run.
Jump on it.
Take one for the team. And then you've got the sparring, and then we even do some 2 versus 1 sparring, which is again just more about what should you try and do, try and line them up so you're not fighting 2 people, you try and fight one of them. Just give yourself the best chance to survive in that situation.
And is this like a managing distance type thing as well?
That kind of thing, yeah. There's just so many different aspects. And then you've got the pad work, and we do a little bit of board breaking, which is like a power test. So actually, are your techniques any good, or are you just... or can you actually smash through a bit of wood, you know, like that kind of vibe. And there's a bit of it that's like for show, and it's like, it makes you feel good.
I'm just going to stop you for a second because I'm going to come back. We're going to have a training session. I'm going to have a private with you. And at the end of it, I'm going to see if I can break a board, and we see if we can post it. Because if I can't break a board, I might have to lay down and go.
No, I reckon you got it. We'll get on out. And then, you know, there's loads of different aspects. And then you even got, which I really like, I value it a lot, is you learn a lot of the history of it. So Taekwondo is a Korean martial art. All the patterns have different names, and they're all kind of based off of somebody throughout Korean history.
Really? That's cool, isn't it?
And when you go for black belt, again, with the way we do it now is you stand with the grandmaster, and he'll ask you kind of just anything from what you've learned at white belt to what you learn in current.
All right, I see. Because when you said he asked you anything, you go,
not
whoa,
anything.
hang on, whoa, hold on.
Puts his camera on. No, but you know, like just what this pattern is based off of, who it was named after, why it was this, why it's in the shape it is, what does that represent? And it's just, you know, it really makes you appreciate the actual art itself.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why am I doing this? Well, actually, this was based off of this person who did this for Korea in 1685 or whatever it is.
That's really cool.
It just
yeah.
helps you understand it all. You know?
I've never heard that before. That's cool.
Yeah, it is cool. Again, you know, some people will say, oh, but why are you doing that for the martial art? But it's just, for me, it's just the appreciation of Taekwondo as what it is. You know, it's not necessarily the most useful martial art in the world. 9 times out of 10, the fight might end up on the floor. And if you've not done any grappling as a Taekwondo practitioner, you get a bit stuck.
But there's also the grappler's got to go through them kicks, right? It's like trying to kiss a windmill, isn't it? So I think it's very easy for a lot of grapplers to go, yeah, we'll just take you down. It's like, if you get a hold, but I've got to close that distance first, don't I?
Yeah. But you know, as a martial art, I wouldn't change it for anything. You know? I don't go back and go, oh, I wish I'd started Jiu Jitsu or I wish I started kickboxing earlier, because the Taekwondo is my foundation of just who I am.
That's interesting.
So I really appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of Taekwondo as a kid, just growing up.
That's cool, because I tell you what, I watched it, and I'm going to sound like a proper sort of like, what do they call it? Not bedroom warrior, like a casual.
Yeah.
But I used to watch that program, Human Weapon. You seen that one?
Nah.
Human Weapon. So it was like two guys. I think his name was Bill something and Jason Chamberg, who was a professional MMA fighter. But he's like a California-looking sort of actor-looking guy with nice hair and muscles, right? He doesn't look like a fighter, but he is. He was all of that. And Bill, whatever his name was sorry, Bill, if this ever finds you, mate. But he's like a big former NFL player, like a massive, heavy sort of heavyweight lump. Not. I don't think he came from a fighting back. I might be wrong on that. I think he was a wrestler or something. But whatever. But it was a really good program. They used to go around and they used to go to different countries. One of them was Korea and Taekwondo. And I watched it. And Bill, who was a big, massive guy, he got knocked out with a spinning wheel kick at the fight at the end against the Taekwondo guy who looks like he's probably 60 kilos, you know, like with a wheel kick, and blah, blah, blah. But anyway, the things that stuck out to me with that, they was like doing like conditioning in the hills and all kinds of like running with people on their back and all kinds of madness. What sort of conditioning do you do with Taekwondo?
Do you know what? I think this is where obviously it gets westernized. Like we didn't do anything.
Oh, you didn't do anything?
Nah,
you didn't go running through the hills with your mate on your back?
Nothing like that. But again, it's one of them things where, you know, if I ever had the opportunity, I would love to go to Korea, or even, like you said, I'd love to go out to Thailand and do some Muay Thai training out there and stuff like that. But I think fundamentally I'd love to end up out in Korea one day, just looking at maybe perhaps the bits that get missed.
Yep.
When it has been brought over into Europe and stuff, because like I said, there's so many different versions of it now, and there's so many people that do it such a disservice because it's just a money-making scheme to them.
And when you said different styles of Taekwondo here, what's the original from Korea? Is it just like sort of precursor?
The original one is ITF.
Oh, okay.
And then it kind of got, you know, that if you, again, I haven't fully brushed up on it or like read about it, but I have looked at little bits of the history, and it's like this person basically just had a disagreement with this person, and they just decided to do different things.
Right.
So then this is where WTF came from, and ITF
carried
on over here, right?
One of them.
But then it just kept going and going and going, and then someone went, oh, I've got a great idea, I'm just going to use this to make a load of money. Like there are some on, if you go on like Indeed, you can apply to be a Taekwondo instructor.
What do you mean apply? Like as in like I can do it, never done Taekwondo, I can go, I want to be an instructor.
I had one person message me on Instagram once, where do you teach? He was like, yeah, I'm looking to do like be a Taekwondo. And I was like, oh, how long have you been? And he was like, oh no, I haven't.
And he's like, yeah, never.
I'm like, what? But this is where it all falls apart, right? And the same with kickboxing. There are some kickboxing gyms you can apply to be a kickboxing instructor, and you go and do like a 4-day course, and then they set you up with one of their franchises. But for the person at the top of that, it's just
the money thing. Well, there's these self-defense courses, isn't there? And RGA Marlow, shout out RGA Marlow, they posted about it, like, because it was close to them, I think. There was like a no martial arts experience needed, come down, do like I don't know what it was, but like a little course.
Yeah.
And like, now you can teach people how to defend yourself. And there was like a terrible video of some woman with someone trying to choke her.
Did you see it? Was that the one that was on like, she was on like Good Morning Britain?
Yes, it's not that one, but it's like that. It was like that, but it wasn't that specific one, but it was exactly the same,
Mate.
And it's like, come on, you know.
I sat there and was like, you can't
shocking,
be serious.
But to me, that should be, I was going to say, not illegal because it's probably too strong. I'm not saying it should go to prison, but there should be some repercussions because it's dangerous to be teaching that.
It is.
You know? It's dangerous to be teaching that.
I had a student, again, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I had a student that came across and started training with me. They didn't train with me for very long because of, I think, what they'd just been shown as how it works. So they came across to me as a blue belt and trained me for probably a year and a half and were a blue belt the whole time because...
Taekwondo blue belt, this is,
Obviously, like I said, you learn all the different patterns. So when you're a blue belt, you should know the white belt pattern all the way up to the blue belt pattern. And then when you want to grade, what normally happens at blue belt is we just ask you to show us 3 of those. We'll pick 3. And you have, because that just is the fairest way to demonstrate that you know all of them without having to do all of them.
Right.
And she knew the first one because that's what she'd been taught. And then every so often they'll go, oh, we're going to do a grading this week. Come and do this. Oh, well done, here's your new belt. All the way up to blue belt, off basically nothing.
It's interesting, when you said all the way up to blue belt, what are the belts in Taekwondo?
So you got, basically goes...
Because, sorry, when you said blue belt, like Jiu Jitsu, blue belt's first belt.
No, that's blue belt's like 4 away from black.
Really? Yeah. So if we get a blue belt in Jiu Jitsu comes down here, people are going, whoa.
Whereas in reality... Wow, that's pretty good. No, so there's five block colours. So you've got white, which is the starting one. You then get yellow, green, blue, red, and then black.
Okay.
And then
no brown belt?
No.
That's
interesting. And in between all of those, you have basically that block with the next colour stripe through the middle. Okay. So we get a white belt with a yellow stripe. That's the second belt.
Okay.
Then you get a full yellow.
So it's like levels of white belt.
Yeah,
okay,
yellow with green,
right.
green with blue, so on and so forth. So when you get to blue, you then get a blue with red, red with black, and then black.
Right.
So she'd done 7 gradings on basically the same thing and gone, oh, here's your new belt. And it's like...
Tough, innit? Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, you can't make it illegal.
No.
But in some ways it feels like it is. Because for somebody, I always feel like, it's not disrespectful, but for somebody like myself who's worked really, really hard.
Yeah.
And actually a lot of these people have more students than I do.
Yeah.
And it's like, but off of what merit?
Yeah.
And I feel them really bad for the people that are paying for that because they know no different.
Well, it just milks down the sport, doesn't it? Because like if someone walks into that, like on my experience with Taekwondo, I walked into the place I walked in, and as I said to you, I'm joking a bit, but not much. When I said I think I could have beat everyone in there at Taekwondo, like it was a bit kind of like bizarre. Like there was like some people throwing some weird spinny kicks, and I was looking at it going, that can't be right.
Nah.
Do you know what I mean? You know when you're going like, and then he's throwing some weird kicking off balance, and I was like. You know, it takes you sort of 20 minutes to go, oh yeah, this is a complete fucking nonsense.
And don't get me wrong, like there are some like gyms that just prefer one or the other. Like I've been to some comps and I've watched one kid do his pattern in a competition and gone, oh, wow, he's really good. Then I watch him jump on the sparring mat and he looks like he's never sparred before.
Right, I got you. Because I've been around Taekwondo guys as well, where I've seen them throwing stuff up close and you go, yo, that's fucking real.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'd try and take that motherfucker down a bit lively, you know?
Yeah.
But like this one, this particular day, was kind of like,
Yeah.
And by the way, everyone in there was like, looked like they had a normal job and this was like their fun Saturday morning fuck around, right?
And don't get me wrong, there is a place for that.
Yeah,
right?
but don't give them a black belt.
No, and that's where I feel like we've got such a great kind of balance of, this is a family-friendly club environment. You're not walking in here, I'm going to get you to be a world champion one day. That's not what this is. You're coming in here and you want to learn a martial art, but at the same time, we value what that is that we're teaching.
And I also don't think there's anything wrong with being a low-level belt forever. If you're never good enough to be a black belt or a blue belt or whatever it is.
You train once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Your job,
and if your skill level doesn't develop, who cares? Just keep doing it and just enjoy it. Like I think that's fine.
The fitness, the learning some cool kicks, or
because who wants to be a higher belt? Like if I can relate it like to jiu-jitsu. Like who wants to be a black belt getting tapped by blue belts? What good is that? Do you know what I mean? Not that it doesn't happen. Of course it does. Blue belts that are competitive, black belts that aren't, that are a bit older, etc., etc. But you know, who wants to be the black belt that all the blue belts beat? You shouldn't be.
And that is the message that we kind of send. It's like, you don't want to be that black belt that a white belt comes up to and goes, oh, how do I do this? And you go, I'm just going to go and ask this person, because you don't know. You don't want to be that person. You want to be the blue belt that people come up to and go, how do I do this? And you're like, oh, you're going to do done. You know the answer, right? You don't want to be the black belt that everyone goes, oh. He doesn't really know what he's talking about, that bloke. Like,
of course. Yeah, you shouldn't be a black belt. Yeah, you don't want that.
Right? And that is the message. It's like, this is family friendly. Everyone's welcome. But at the same time, to get to black belt, you have to work for it.
And so if I come to you, I'll say, Ben, listen, Taekwondo's my new challenge. I'm going to train with you as much as I need to. How long does it take me to get a black belt?
You know, it this is what can be nice, is the time frame. Like you said, it shouldn't be a time frame. It should be based on ability and how kind of, if you train in 4 times a week and you're putting everything into it, then yeah, all right, fine. It might only take you a couple of months to do your first grading.
Right.
It might then take you only a couple of months to do your next one. Normally, again, it depends on age. Normally from black stripe to black belt, it will take you between 6 months and a year if you've done the rest of the training correctly, because the jump shouldn't be massive.
Yeah.
Because if you're a good black stripe, the jump's not massive to black belt because you've made all the smaller jumps where you've needed to. Anywhere between, for an adult training 3-4 times a week, anywhere between kind of 4 and 5 years, if you're doing all the right stuff, it's about right. But I think that's where it's very different from a jiu-jitsu or something like that, because it's not necessarily the most competitive sport in the world. If you're ticking the boxes of what you need to do to be able to throw like a block that's actually going to be useful, using what we call sine wave and crossing your hands and generating power, if you get all of that and you understand it all and you're training consistently, it's like boxing. You can learn how to throw a jab and a cross. That doesn't mean you can spar, but you can throw the techniques. And I think that's the biggest difference between Taekwondo and something like Jiu Jitsu, is Jiu Jitsu's merit a lot of the time, unless you're tapping people of the same belt.
Well, there's no grading system really in Jiu-Jitsu.
No
grading system. I said that wrong. There's no sort of grading day or anything like that. Yeah. But when you're ready, coach will give you it. Now, there are gradings where you'll show up and you've kind of got an idea who's getting a belt, who might, and whatnot. But there's no formal, right, show me this. It's just like, which is what, come out here, next belt. You know what I mean?
Which is what Taekwondo is. So, but again, that's the nice thing about different martial arts. You're learning different techniques while you're here that should be applicable to a real life situation. Yeah. Not necessarily can you beat the person next to you.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
Slightly different in that regards, but yeah, if you're training 3 or 4 times a week, probably about 4 or 5 years is probably about right for a black belt.
Watch this space, guys.
Let's
Taekwondo, I'm going to tie it around my head just because I can, and we'll see how we go. But what's the training like now, mate? Because as you said, you're bulking, right? You're trying to get up there.
Training's good at the minute. Obviously I train with Wes. I jump in down here when I'm.
He's had too many shout outs. Leave Wes out now, eh?
I jump in down here. We've got a kickboxing class on a Friday, and then we do an hour of like kind of open sparring afterwards. So I normally jump in then after the class, jump in, do some sparring with the guys. And then normally I try and be in the gym like 4 times a week in a minute.
Oh, you are? Yeah. And what's that look like? Is that sort of traditional heavy lifting just to get the weight on?
Yeah, it's all try and relate it, so it's not just kind of picking things up. Like it's all trying to be relatable in terms of like what exercises are good for stability and actually being functional. So like deadlifts and squats and bench press and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, it's kind of I'm looking at 6 reps max, but for 4 sets of something heavy and try and really, that last one should be like, I can barely move it, right? And then just eating and eating and eating and
right.
putting a bit of size.
Is putting on weight hard or easy for you?
It's hard.
It's hard,
really hard. And this is always the funny argument I've got with, because for me, I'm in a weird position where I'm 25, but I teach a lot of adults who are, even some up to like 40, and they're just starting because they want to learn something new. Fine, brilliant. But there is and it's the women are the hard ones, because again, their weight's crazy. All the hormones they've got, it fluctuates. So they're always like, it's really difficult for me to get any weight off. And I'm like, I'm really jealous of
I'll
that.
take it, yeah.
And they're like, but I'm really jealous of you because you find it so, I want to put weight on. Yeah. So I'm in the same boat as them, just flipped. Yeah. And they were like, but you're so lucky, you get to eat whatever you want, don't put any weight on. I'm like, that's not lucky. Like, it makes my life so hard, right? I'm trying to get to this position, I can't do it.
And I think that's harder than losing weight, to be honest. I think gaining muscle is got to be harder than losing.
Because again, like from a physical perspective, all right, you might feel hungry, but there's not a necessity to eat. Yeah. Whereas for me, I can go for a day and eat, and then it's like, I've only had 2,000 calories, I need another 1,000. But I can't physically put that in my mouth, I'm going to be sick. Right. And there was a stage where there was one day where I remember doing that. I was eating protein shake. I remember finishing this protein shake before training, and I come in and I was like, and I had to be sick because I tried so hard to eat enough calories. But that's the difference, right? One's just a kind of, are you physically tough enough to be like, I'm hungry, but I shouldn't eat that.
Yeah, that's easy.
So I'm not going to eat.
Yeah, you can stop, can't you? You can
eat. Whereas for me, I'm like, I'm really not hungry, but I need to eat, but I can't because I'm going to be sick.
Yeah.
And it is really difficult.
There's a Mackie D's up the road, mate. They'll sort you out.
That's
They'll
what I
sort
mean.
you out real proper.
But that's the hard thing as well, right? It's like, right, calories, but I could just go and buy 3 bags of sweets.
Yeah, that's no good.
Next thing you know, I'm 2,500 calories in already.
Yeah.
But I don't put any weight on if I do that. It doesn't do
Certainly
anything
not
for
any
me.
good weight
No,
anyway.
if any, I'm like, oh, I've got a bit of fat, ain't I? Like, do you know what I mean? So I find it really tough to put like size on. But again, because I need to do it correctly, it has to be protein. It has to be like good whole food, not just a load of shit.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah. But
And you've got to be trying to kick people in the face
and that's the
whilst
thing,
overeating, right?
Especially when comps come up and it's like, well, now I've got to train and I've got to spar.
Yeah.
Do a decent sparring, especially in here. It's warm in here.
Right.
Especially when there's 20 people in here and everyone's sparring, it gets hot. And then I'm like, I've probably lost like 2 kilos. In
Yeah,
weight.
right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
What's happened now? I was doing well and now I've dropped 2 kilos.
And also, you can get in position. I know people that have got in positions where they're doing that. They're trying to put on a lot of weight. They end up like putting on sort of 2 kilos, so nothing significant. But they put on 2 kilos, and their game just goes down because they're eating all the time, and they're kind of like,
yeah. And then
it's tough, isn't it?
yeah,
it's tough,
especially in like a when you're doing something like this, where a lot of the movement is very kind of bouncy and you got to be on your toes all the time. So that 2 kilos.
You're eating calories,
from being like, oh, I can do this for 10 minutes, I can bounce around, I can do this easy. Suddenly 2 kilos heavy, you're like, oh, my legs are a bit tired. Like, I feel heavy. It is hard. It is hard.
But hey,
we'll
such is life. Just kick him in the face, bro.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Are you a fight fan as well? Do you watch the UFCs and all that business?
Yeah,
because the thing that comes to mind, I was talking about this yesterday with Keaton from Rival Boxing. You can shout out Keaton. He's about John Jones retiring, right? Now, and John Jones is probably relevant for you too. He won his last fight by a spinning back kick, which is probably one of your specialties.
Back kick, back kick.
But like, tell me, it's disappointing, yeah?
It is disappointing because, but again, we shouldn't be disappointed because when you look at who he is, like, again, take nothing away from how good he is as a martial artist, but if you look at who he is as a person, this kind of falls right in line with everything else, right? Like, all the stuff that he's done outside of MMA, and it's like, well, what do we expect?
Does what he wants, doesn't he? You ain't telling him what to do.
And it's just a shame that he couldn't have made this decision like a year ago. Because for Tom, we've lost a year of almost like prime Tom Aspinall, right?
Do you think this is really the end for John Jones?
Nah, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him. He'll either take something silly, like he'll fight Ngannou, just because of the title. But again, I don't think he'll do that because I don't think he wants to.
You see, here's what I can think, and I said this yesterday, so I'm repeating myself.
Go on,
apologies
from
yesterday. You ain't heard it yet. No one's heard it yet.
Yeah,
but by the time this comes out, they will have. So whatever, deal with it. Or I tell you what. Just like and subscribe and moan in the comments below. How about that?
Yeah, go on.
Moan. Give me a big moan.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I feel like he will be serious and he is actual. No, not that I fucking know, right? But this is my guess. I think it's probably genuine.
Yeah.
But then I could see him in a year's time after Tom Aspinall's got another couple of defences and everyone's Tom Aspinall's the best thing since sliced bread. He's broke the record of this.
Almost like the Steve.
To go, hang on a minute, hang on, and then come back and then we might get the fight. But I guess maybe I'm just wishful thinking. I want to see that fight so bad.
I'd love to see the fight. I'd love to.
What do you think?
Oh, it's so difficult.
Tough, isn't it?
Because I think what tends to happen is a lot of like recency bias. Is you look at what Tom Aspinall's done and you go, wow, he's an incredible striker. But that's because everyone's almost forgotten about how good John Jones is.
And
right?
Tom Aspinall's a lot bigger man, isn't he, naturally? Do you know what I mean? Like, forget the weights, they might weigh in similar, but naturally he's a lot bigger man. You know what I mean?
So it'd be an interesting fight because I just think John's so experienced that all the stuff that Tom is good at wouldn't faze him.
No, I agree. I feel my opinion on the fight would be whatever way it goes. I don't think it'd be close. I could see it going one way or the other. I think we could watch it and it turns into a fight where it's like John Jones. Oh yeah, just like every other John Jones fight. He's doing exactly to Tom what he did to everybody else. But I could also see Tom coming out the gates and smashing him quick. First round finish and get him out of there. But we'll never know at this point. It's all for opinions now, isn't it? Especially, and with Pereira losing his light heavyweight title, he kind of sat out, which made me think even more he's going to get the fight. But
we'll see.
You never know what goes on. Like, to be that great, I think you got to be a bit mad as well. I think that some of that madness takes over, and you'll just never understand.
You look at, obviously, it's not quite at the same level, but you look at Conor. And how good he was. But he was so successful, so much money that he's just lost it now. Do you know
Well,
what I
think of this. You're 25 now. He was on the dole at 25, right? So he had nothing.
Nah.
And then like to be in, what would it have been, 4 years, I think, from that to fighting Mayweather, and he's made hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
It's that you can't be the same person,
No,
can you?
and what it is, they always say that, right? It's hard to get up at 6 a.m. and run when you're sleeping in silk sheets.
And you're not the same person, because like when he's like a young, he's not a kid, 25, 24, 23 coming up, but young, no real responsibilities other than to himself. And you've got this vision of this versus you go forward. He's got 3 or 4 kids now, and rich as fuck.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you can't possibly be the same person, can you?
No, you can't be. And I think that's probably where John's at in his head, right?
Yeah.
It's like, look, this kid, he obviously knows he's good.
Yeah.
And he's going to back his own ability, but he also knows that if he wants to do it, he's going to have to take it pretty seriously.
Yeah.
And it's just whether he wants to. Right?
And could you imagine if Tom lost his next fight?
Right.
Well, there's 2 things that go on there. John Jones, people will go, well, he would have beat him anyway.
Yeah.
But also, it's like, people will forget, and then John Jones will sail off as the greatest without having to fuck. I mean, he is the greatest of all time anyway, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if he beat Tom Aspinall, that's a statement. That's a like, hey, don't ever question it ever again.
That's
do you know what I mean?
This young heavyweight, not even my weight category. Like,
And there's people moaning about it on like podcasts and things that I've seen. I haven't watched them all because I turned them off. When someone starts moaning, I'm out.
Yeah.
But they're like saying like, oh, he's scared and he's shit and he's no, and it's like, what? Come on, come on. So, but my point was like, you're all, no matter how good you do, there's always going to be some idiot going to say, whatever, right? But is what it is. But mate, listen, this has been great. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I'm definitely coming back. We are going to get some training in for sure.
But
But before we finish up, I don't know if you've seen any of these. I always ask, most important question of the day, which football team do you support?
I'm a Chelsea fan.
Yes, my guy, Bosh! That's the correct answer. First time we've had that for a while. I had Arsenal yesterday. Oh, no. Fuck's sake.
No,
but anyway, thanks a lot, mate.
Appreciate
I always finish with a fist up like this. Squeeze the neck. Boom!